August 20th, 1955. Mamie Till-Mobley stands on the platform at Chicago's Central Station, watching her 14-year-old son, Emmett, board a southbound train to Mississippi. She's nervous sending him south. The Jim Crow system terrifies her. But Emmett is excited to visit his great-uncle Moses Wright and cousins near Money, a tiny cotton town in the Mississippi Delta. Before he leaves, Mamie gives him final warnings. Be careful around white people. Say yes, sir, and no, ma'am. Never talk back. If confronted, get on your knees and beg if necessary. Emmett laughs at his mother's anxiety. He's a confident kid from Chicago, unfamiliar with Mississippi's brutal racial codes. Mamie removes a silver ring from her dead husband's finger and places it on Emmett's. 10 days later, that ring will be the only way she can identify her son's mutilated corpse. For the first 3 days, Emmett enjoys Southern life, picking cotton, shooting fireworks, swimming in ponds. On August 24th, after working in the fields, Emmett and his cousins drive to Bryant's grocery and meat market in Money to buy candy. The store is owned by Roy Bryant, a white ex-soldier, and his 21-year-old wife, Carolyn. What happens inside the store remains disputed. Some witnesses later say Emmett whistled at Carolyn Bryant as he left. Others claim he said goodbye in a friendly manner. Carolyn herself will testify he grabbed her hand, touched her waist, and made crude advances. Decades later, she'll admit to a historian that she lied about the physical contact. Whatever actually occurred, it lasts less than a minute. Emmett buys bubble gum and leaves. The other boys notice Carolyn looks angry and walks toward her car. They're scared she might get a pistol. They leave quickly. None of them, including Emmett, understand they've just triggered a murder. Roy Bryant is out of town on a trucking job when the incident occurs. Carolyn initially doesn't tell him, agreeing with her sister-in-law to keep quiet. But when Roy returns days later, one of the kids at the scene tells him what happened. In the Jim Crow South, a black teenager speaking to or whistling at a white woman violates the most sacred racial code. Roy Bryant and his half-brother J.W. Milam, a towering man weighing 235 pounds, decide Emmett needs to be taught a lesson. Early in the morning of August 28th, they drive to Moses Wright's home. They pound on the door, force their way inside at gunpoint, and demand the boy from Chicago who did the talking. Moses pleads with them. The boy doesn't understand Mississippi ways. He's just a child. The men ignore him and drag Emmett outside. Moses's wife Elizabeth begs them not to take the boy. One of the men responds, they'll return him if he's not the right one. It's the last time Emmett's family sees him alive. What happens next emerges years later when Bryant and Milam, protected by double jeopardy, sell their story to Look magazine for $4,000. They drive Emmett to a barn in Drew, Mississippi. They beat him savagely for hours. They pistol whip him. They gouge out one of his eyes. Despite the torture, Emmett refuses to beg or cry. This enrages them further. Milam later brags that the boy wouldn't break, wouldn't show fear. Finally, around dawn, they take him to the banks of the Tallahatchie River. 1969. Milam shoots Emmett in the head with a .45 caliber pistol. They strip his body, tie a 75-pound cotton gin fan around his neck with barbed wire, and throw him into the river. They expect the body to sink and disappear forever. 3 days later, on August 31st, 2 boys fishing discover Emmett's corpse floating in the water, grotesquely swollen and disfigured beyond recognition. Mississippi authorities want to bury Emmett immediately in an unmarked grave. Sheriff H.C. Strider claims the body is too decomposed to identify. suggesting it might be an old corpse planted by NAACP agitators to create racial tension. But Mamie Till-Mobley demands her son be returned to Chicago. When the casket arrives and she opens it, she collapses in anguish. Emmett's face is crushed beyond recognition. His tongue protrudes. One eye is gouged out. The only way to identify him is the silver ring on his finger. Mamie makes the most important decision of her life. She insists on an open-casket funeral. "Let the world see what they did to my boy," she declares. "Let them see what hate looks like." For 4 days, Emmett's body lies in state at Robert's Temple Church of God in Christ on Chicago's South Side. Over 100,000 people file past the casket. Many faint, some vomit. All are traumatized by what they see. Jet magazine publishes photographs of Emmett's mutilated face. The images appear in black newspapers and magazines across America. Suddenly, the abstraction of Southern racial violence becomes concrete. This isn't a statistic. It's a child's destroyed body. The photographs shock the nation, especially young African Americans who realize this could happen to them or their brothers. Rosa Parks will later say that when she refused to give up her bus seat in Montgomery 3 months after the trial, she was thinking about Emmett Till. The murder galvanizes a generation of civil rights activists. It transforms abstract injustice into visceral outrage. Emmett becomes a symbol, a rallying point, a martyr whose death demands action. The trial begins September 19th in Sumner, Mississippi, the Tallahatchie County seat. The courtroom is segregated, black spectators confined to folding chairs in a roped-off section. The all-white, all-male jury hears 4 days of testimony. Moses Wright, a 64-year-old sharecropper, does something extraordinary. He stands in the witness box, points at Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam, and testifies they took Emmett from his home. This is the first time in Mississippi history that a black man directly accuses white men of murder in court. It takes immense courage. Wright knows testifying will make him a target. The defense tries to discredit him, claiming he can't positively identify the defendants in the dark. But Wright's testimony is clear and damning. The prosecution presents overwhelming evidence. Witnesses, physical evidence, confessions. It doesn't matter. On September 23rd, after deliberating just 67 minutes, one juror later admits they took a soda pop break to stretch it out. The jury acquits both defendants. When asked afterward, jurors admit they knew Bryant and Milam were guilty, but didn't believe white men deserved punishment for killing a black child. The verdict shocks the nation. Protests erupt in northern cities. International newspapers condemn American racism. But in Mississippi, the verdict is celebrated. Citizens' councils, white supremacist civic organizations, throw parties. The defense attorneys are hailed as heroes. Bryant and Milam return to their normal lives, expecting business as usual. Instead, they're economically destroyed. Black customers, who comprised most of their clientele, boycott their grocery stores. Both businesses fail within months. Unable to find work in Mississippi, the families move to Texas. Roy Bryant becomes a welder. J.W. Milam works odd jobs. Both men return to Mississippi years later, living in relative obscurity. Milam dies of cancer in 1980 at age 61. Bryant dies in 1994 at 63. Carolyn Bryant lives until 2023, dying at 88 without ever being held legally accountable. In 2008, she allegedly told a historian she lied about Emmett's advances, though she later denied this recantation. A Mississippi grand jury declined to indict her in 2022. She died having escaped justice. Emmett Till's murder became the catalyst that transformed the civil rights movement from isolated protests into a national crusade. Before Till, many black Americans in the North remained disengaged from Southern struggles. After, they understood the violence was real, pervasive, and could claim anyone. Young activists like Martin Luther King Jr., who was 26 when Till died, cited the murder as formative. The Montgomery bus boycott began 3 months after the trial. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee formed partly in response to Till's martyrdom. Every major civil rights action of the next decade carried Till's memory. A 14-year-old boy killed for allegedly whistling, whose mother's courage in showing the world his destroyed body sparked a revolution. Silence turned into protest because Mamie Till-Mobley refused silence. She insisted the world witness what hate produces, and the world finally could no longer look away.